ride to you guys. I think you're going to be pleased. It's always an interesting, um, it's interesting to watch them be the creative piece and how they pulled all of the thoughts and opinions and your history, the background that you've got going on here in Fort Payne. It's going to show the love for the community, and it's going to show your love for the community. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys to do the rest.
For those of you listening to the recording, there are about 600 people here. All right, well, first of all, thank you. Thank you all. This week has been really, really fun for us. And doing this as often as we do, going into communities like we do, the thing that we have learned loud and clear is that more so than anything else, the people are the ones who are able to make communities cool. And you guys have been just so much fun, and you're doing so much good work. So it's always nice to be able to work with a community like Fort Payne. Sean, jump in at any time and interrupt. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of crank through. We'd like to recap a little bit about what we heard during the process. A lot of you sat in on all those. Some of you sat in on every single one and probably developed a bit of a drinking habit. It's actually remarkably simple in my mind. We started to filter things down and put them into three main categories. You've got a really dynamic history story to tell. That history story is one that encapsulates everything from Boomtown history, Sequoia, Cherokee, Trail of Tears. We noticed that in every single meeting, somebody took that opportunity to make sure that Trail of Tears was addressed, but at the same time, to be such an impactful and kind of somber story. I think it's one of those things that we've got some work to do to be able to tell it the right way. But also understand that it doesn't necessarily need to be one of those things that is at the top level of your brand identity. You don't really have a Trail of Tears Street Festival. And I don't mean to be crass about it. It is part of your story, but it's part of that history story. I tried my best to not be too overly swayed by just music, because you have an amazing arts story to tell. And so when you really simplify it down, you've got arts, you've got history, and you've got outdoors. And everything can fit into those three categories, and then you can start to see relationships between the three. You can very much dig into how the natural surroundings inspire the arts. And the topography and the isolation that topography caused actually generated this deep-seated connection with the arts and this culture passing along the arts. So you can't separate the music from the mountains. You can't separate the sock industry from, they're all interconnected. So that was pretty interesting. Anything else from there? We also like to look at things that currently exist. And this is just a quick slide of some of the things that we pulled. And Matt told me the other day after the first meeting, he was like, be honest. Like, you don't need to sugarcoat things. Be honest about stuff. When we look at this overall slide, this is actually probably one of the best in terms of the quality of the components that are on there. And I'm not going to say it out loud so it doesn't get recorded, but except for that right there, everything else looks pretty good. That's exactly what you would expect it to look like. But, from a visual standpoint, but they're not connected. There's no connection. There's no interconnection between them. You see a little bit of, you did a good job on how you kind of back in design the Main Street identity. You did a sign, then you created a logo, and then you kind of expanded that out. actually, again, it was created for the website, then back engineered, and is now being used on some print materials. So you've got some good stuff going on there. What we want to do is we want to look at this and we want to create a cohesive and connected family through the Main Street world. Now, in addition to that, just like we talked about on Tuesday, it's not about having one and only one logo. So we created an organizational identity.
Well, I don't know. Is it
Y'all,
that time?
there's a side conversation about triangles
Yes, there is.
going on over here.
Yes.
And green triangles in particular. This was not done as any kind of jab, as a pre-existing slide long before I got to Fort Payne.
That's too funny.
Destinations are just shown by green triangles. So, a conversation that we had, and I talked to you all about on Tuesday, Main Street is your organizational identity. You need a destination brand that is separate from that organization. We discussed this amongst ourselves and amongst some folks in the community, and my gut reaction at the front end was we're going to do a Main Street brand and then a downtown. After we dug into it and we looked at what everybody else was doing, that seemed like the wrong track here. So what we did was we did a Main Street logo and a Fort Payne logo. Because that way it could truly be of most benefit to the community as a whole. There wasn't any need for it to have a downtown modifier because there weren't any really other districts in the community. So it was going to probably be the primary marketer of the Fort Payne brand anyway. So that way, the efforts of Main Street give a marketing savvy destination brand that can then reinforce all the efforts going on the county level. So, the county does a great job of identifying that Fort Payne is one of their components of the story that they tell, and now we're simply building it on that level. So I think you'll find that ends up being a good strategy. Okay, so from the destination brand, where we always start is we start with the creation of a toolbox. People want to dig straight into the logo. The toolbox is made up of 4 main components. And these components are the components that allow you to have a system that is expandable. So you want to define colors. Select the colors that you want to use. Uniform typefaces. Consistent message and graphics. Okay? Now, I'm going to start off with the color palette. And colors always look a little different on a projector. But don't make that face. They look different on a projector. Here's what I wanted to have happen.
Yeah, they look a lot different. I think.
Yeah.
Pantone book.
She is
She's,
Get her a
very-
Pantone.
she's tough.
She's funny.
All right.
So I knew that in the majority of the photography that you would end up incorporating, you were going to have a lot of very rich greens. That is one of the things about your community. Because of that, I felt like you didn't actually need to put too much of an emphasis on green in your color palette because it was introduced through the photography. So what we actually did was we took the colors of the high school, we took the colors that Main Street had been using, and the colors that the city had been using on the website, and we essentially created a palette that was based off of things that could exist nicely in that room. And that's where those are derived from. You can't see, but that's actually a really warm gray-brown on the far left-hand side. Then we've got 2 golden colors. We've got a nice light blue. We actually have a couple shades of blue and a couple shades of green. So then we select typefaces. Now, we looked at a lot of different typefaces. There are a couple issues that you want to address when you select a typeface. First and foremost, you want them to be legible. You also can't control the name of a community. So I think it's fun to share this because it's a good education lesson. First question we had to ask ourselves, is it always Fort, F-O-R-T? Some businesses in the community abbreviated FT, and most people spell it out. Abbreviating it brevity allows you to have larger letters, but it looked funny. Like we just didn't, it didn't feel like the way we saw Fort Payne the most. The other thing that we have to consider is your first name is Ford and your second name is Payne. And I told folks the other day, I went to Sevier Middle School. So I'm used to having a name that doesn't necessarily evoke the nicest, warmest, fuzziest. We looked at script typefaces for your name. Because scripts are soft, they're comfortable. Strangely enough, every time you look at the word fort in a script, far. So, you know, you got to look at that stuff and you have to identify what works and doesn't work. So what we did was we selected a primary typeface and a secondary typeface. The primary typeface is a clean sans serif typeface, and I want to tell you what those typefaces are for. Because I think a lot of times people look at those and they're like, oh, that looks cold, that looks sterile. There's a term called content neutral. Content neutrality is something that's very important in design because what it means is it communicates without presenting a tremendous amount of personality in that communication so that you can establish the personality that you want to have with your composition and your colors and your message. And we felt like a certain amount of content neutrality was really important here in Fort Payne because you had so many stories to tell. In fact, if you look at a typeface like this, it's a slightly wider version of the typeface that you would see on the new banners downtown. Clean, sans serif, but can still exist in a historic context. This particular typeface was derived from a typeface that was created in a time period that would have existed between your boom days and the time that your city hall was built. And if you notice, the Fort Payne City Hall typeface on that building is very similar to this. So you've got this interesting connection between those choices. Now, we did go with a script typeface for your accent, but we never put Fort Payne in that. You'll see how that kind of comes together. It's an attractive typeface, it's a humanized typeface. This doesn't look handwritten, but it looks hand-brushed, very much like the sign that you all have done. So this is a design aesthetic that you as a community have already adopted. It's something that we see in boom days. It's something that we see over at the spot. So these are some of the elements that kind of already exist, and we just wanted to solidify those. You want to add anything to that?
No, you hit
All right.
the point.
So when you start to pull them together, you always have what we call a word type. Sometimes word types are very complex, and sometimes they're simple. We want to impress on you the importance of consistency anytime you say Fort Payne. And that simplicity and that consistency starts to help people connect the dots, okay? So we've got colors, we've got typeface and word type, and then that carries us into brand values. There are all kinds of things here. We try to simplify it down. You know, we hear people talking about the mountains, the gorges, the waterfalls, the caves. Amazing outdoor opportunities, amazing passive and active opportunities. The music heritage, the Native American history, and then the thing that I really loved was that ingenuity, innovation, and creation. So all of those things come together into what we call a brand statement. And the brand statement was a narrative that lets us stitch together all the comments that we heard in the input meetings. So I think I'm going to stand back here and I'll put it up there and read
Can we
it.
have everybody kind of close their eyes so and listen to you while you do this?
Oh, yeah.
I think that, no, seriously, listen to
Yeah,
it.
because my voice is amazing. Okay. For nearly 250 years, people have been drawn to this amazing spot, nestled here in Wills Valley. The mountains that surround us create a comfortable shelter where we have learned to weave together an amazing community with an intriguing history, abundant creativity, and amazing surroundings. Once known as Willacy,
Fort Payne has served as the home of many who have used their creativity and ingenuity to change the world. In the 1820s, Sequoyah invented the only written dialect in North America with his 86-character Cherokee syllabary. Shortly thereafter, Fort Payne played the tragic role of one of the starting points of the Trail of Tears. In the 1880s, Fort Payne experienced a mining boom which, though short-lived, is memorialized in our amazing stone depot. In the early 1900s, our manufacturing industry exploded, earning the honor of sock capital of the world. We invented the modern sock, and although that industry has changed, we are proud to still make high-end organic socks today. Through all these transitions, there's been a common thread that has tied us all together. We call it mountain harmony. We are musicians and artists at heart. The songs of the mountains play concerts in our souls, and it is no wonder that this breathtaking inspiration that surrounds us has birthed such amazing talent. The Louvin brothers, James Dean, Sandra Lafferty, Dennis and Russell Gully are just a few. Through the decades, we have example after example of artists who share their gifts. In the 1970s, 4 local boys truly introduced the world to country music and made the Alabama name known around the globe. Fame didn't draw them away, but kept them loyal to their home. And that is the spirit that is alive today. You can see it in the buildings we're restoring in our historic downtown. Hear it in the sounds of local musicians playing during boom days. Feel it each time a hang glider pushes off and is able to soak in the deepest gorge east of the Mississippi. And taste it right downtown with locally grown produce at the farmer's market or the amazing flavors of local restaurants. We invite you to get away. Come discover the place we call home, a place that isn't in the middle of nowhere, but is truly in the middle of somewhere else altogether. Enjoy the beauty of this place, feel the splendor of a slower pace, and discover Fort Payne, Alabama's mountain town.
Wow.
So that's obviously, that narrative is long, but what that allows you to do is it allows you to connect the dots of all of the different things that we heard. One of the interesting things that we found, and Sean put together this slide, which is an amazing one. If you Google Alabama's mountain town, there are 0 results.
Hot dog.
If you look at alabamasmountaintown.com, it is available today.
Hot dog.
So please, somebody secure that. Yeah, go ahead and take care of that for us. When you actually, if you remove the quotes and you search Alabama's mountain town, one of the first results that you're going to get is a Southern Living article talking about Fort Payne and Mentone. So this position statement, and I will tell you, if you were not in the meeting with our hotel owner from Holiday Inn Express, some of the things that she talked about the motivation of travelers and the value of being Southern and how appealing that is. I can't tell you how many times we go to a place and if you mention being Southern, they see that as a potential liability. And it was really, really great to hear that that was seen as a true strength from a visitor standpoint. So connecting yourself to a level of prominence, letting people throughout the state know that you are the state's mountain town, the mountain getaway, the place to go. I think all those things kind of tie in together. This system is one, it's simple. It allows you to have a graphic that clearly defines who you are. And then you can even see, because of the composition, sometimes you might introduce that idea of Alabama's mountain town. Other times you might talk about that idea of mountain harmony. You've got flexibility in your communication.
Okay, I never like anything, and I love it.
Awesome.
I'm just telling you.
Well,
I always have a critique. I don't have any critique. I love it.
Fantastic. Well, okay, so we can't stop there, though, because this is just that destination, okay? So from here, we have to think about that organization. Right.
But can you break down the? what
Oh,
else?
yeah. Okay, so when you look at this, we always try to be really mindful in the way that we design things, and we try to give you very, very subtle cues. I mean, obviously, everybody knows the reference to the mountains. That makes complete and total sense. If you notice, the horizontal lines on either side of Alabama, they're actually 5 lines, 5 uniform lines representing a musical staff. So it's a very subtle tie-in to music. Do we expect everybody to look at it and see it? No. Do we expect that to be the kind of thing that people can tell that story about? Yes. Being able to introduce in, I mean, you're an interesting community because you have this established date of 1889, but you were established like 7 or 8 different times, you know? So you've got all these different, I mean, you were Willstown, you were Willacy, and I don't even know whether people know that name Willacy all that much. And it's a Cherokee name, and a lot of times you would look at it and you would think that it was Willasai, but Cherokee always pronounced things so like, one of their chiefs' names was Sali, Tsali. So if you take that as any kind of guide, it would be it'd be just seeing, knowing where that comes from. And the county was once known as Wills County. So that connection with the Native American and that origin story, I think all those things are kind of interesting. The component design allows you to take pieces in and out, makes it really expandable. And you can see what we mean with that. Now, there's no tube sock on it. There's no there's no band member of Alabama or an extremely well sculpted beard. They are good at their beard shaving, man. I was always envious. But it allows you a platform to start to connect those dots. Now, when we look at the organization brand, again, now that we have something telling the story of the community, the organization, this is the grassroots group that's making it happen. This is the group that's utilizing the 4-point approach. We actually leaned a little bit more on that sock industry here because we felt like there was so much productivity. You know, when you sit there and you look at Trail of Tears, that was like a year and a half. When you look at Boom Time, that was like 2 years. You were really industrious for a long stretch, starting in the early 1900s. So we wanted to tie in that idea of weaving and those threads, those common threads. So this is what we came up with.
Ooh, I love it.
Tightly woven, perfect fit. Very clean, very simple,
Love it.
using the same typeface. But then once you have that system, you use that icon, that kind of woven together icon, to represent your 4 committees. And what I actually did with this was I kind of gave a little bit of clarification on the roles that those committees can make. Communication and giving, that's really what org does. Community design is what our design committee does. Of course, business vitality, and then we always talk about promotions, but this idea of downtown events and being able to be the ones that are activating the community. And then you can even see how the icon can then turn into a texture, and that texture can be something that you can use to connect elements that Main Street is in charge of. So then from there, we look at event extension, using the same colors, the same typefaces, and start tying in your events. So simple things like farmers market. And I know all these aren't yours, but, you know, being able to pull in Third Saturday, Inspire. We love this, all right? So we heard a story from Maury about how as Boom Days continues to grow, local artists, everybody wants to play, and everybody's not getting a chance to play. So what we want to do is we want to recommend the opportunity of creating a far more regular local venue so that we're constantly celebrating and supporting local talent. So this idea of the Mountain Harmony Downtown Concert Series is a ongoing, regular, small, like, do not overcomplicate it. Keep it simple so that you can do it often. That's the key. But I absolutely love this graphic that Sean created. Again, you're seeing that 5-line staff, and then the symbology of what you're seeing there is everything from, of course, the mountains, which I think many people see first. You see the intertwined threads of the textile industry. You even might see sound waves, or you might see the reverberation of guitar strings. So this really, really great image tying into this really great event. In fact, we really liked that icon. We were walking down that road. It simply wasn't strong enough or meaty enough to be the overall community identity. But we liked it so much that we didn't want to leave it behind. So we invented an event series for it.
Oh, cute.
Again, being able to find creative ways to incorporate your history into your community. I think people are scared to death that the only thing you can say is former sock capital of the world. Right. So make this story something people enjoy doing. You know, the sock thing, the opportunities are literally limitless. We talked about a retail promotion where you would hide socks throughout downtown because everybody knows what it's like to look for a lost sock. And then you find the sock, and inside the sock, there's a discount to a downtown store. And if you go and use that and make a purchase, you get the other sock, you know? And it's like you get this whole, it's this kind of multi-part promotion, getting people into your downtown, getting them into business, and promoting them to make purchases. Signage. Sean, I'm going to let you talk about some of this because Sean just did an amazing job creating some examples of what a uniform signage system would look
I just want to backtrack for just 1 second, and we are not suggesting anybody try to run the 10K in tube socks.
Oh, I am. I totally am. Totally am. There was a man who ran the Boston Marathon dressed like a caveman. So I think you can pull 10K in a tube sock. So, all right, go for it.
All right, so coming into Fort Payne here, we noticed right away that y'all have already been doing banners in the community, and they are attractive banners. They're informative. They're a little on the small side, but they fit in the character and context of your downtown core here very well. One of the things that we like to recommend coming into a community is using banners to accomplish more than just necessarily information and beautification, but also just to let people know instantly that they've arrived somewhere. And standing on the street and watching people play Frogger back and forth across the street with as busy as it is, another good function of banners is to act as a calming device so that when people are aware that they're in a location, they start to slow down. And with banners, the good thing about them is you can rotate and alternate and do different things so that the landscape is changing, because I know that in Greenville, things are changing so fast. I drive by a building and I don't realize there's a new business there, but it's been there 3 years. You know, but with banners, you get a little bit more energy, you get a little bit more of that color. So one thing we want to try to accomplish is giving you a variety of these banners that you can alternate and rotate in and out that have more color and can be used for simple things as just, you know, saying feels so right, or bringing in some of your events and being able to rotate them, which also increases the longevity of these banners. So you've got this nice inventory that you've just paid for, and we're not recommending you just throw those all in the trash and start over. But if you start to rotate new banners in, then that gives you more longevity out of those other banners. And your established date isn't going to change, so you're always going to be historic Fort Payne, established 1889, so those have a lot of years left in them.
And let me stop there. I just want to reiterate, because Sean nailed that point, and I want to make sure that you heard it. So people who live in a place They assume that they know the place. They're not on top of mind awareness of watching when new businesses come in. They're not flocking to a new place every time business turns over. So this idea of using banners to create the visual acknowledgement of change helps to prime a market to be exploratory. It's a great, I mean, it really, like, he nailed it. And that's why when we design these, we like having these solid color backgrounds like that. The ones you have now are black. When you put up something different, it's going to be a different color, so people are going to notice. And then when you put up a different color, they're going to notice. And then when you go back to black, they're going to notice. So you're sending these signals out to people. So a lot of times we don't put enough credit in the roles that banners can play in our downtown.
And so along with that post, and again, these are all examples of what can be done. You know, Ben mentioned earlier that the reason why we lean more towards a Fort Payne broad identity and not a downtown identity was that visitors don't really care about borders. You know, they are coming to a region, they are coming here. If they eat at La Fonda, is that in downtown, or is that just over like main streets? So that's even 2 blocks out. But you know, character-wise, if you're downtown and people ask where to eat, they're going to get recommended Fondas often. Right. And so with a banner like this, it's a simple way of being able to establish some more distinct areas without making a big deal of it. But again, it just builds awareness in people's mind whenever they've crossed over certain thresholds without trying to create a whole identity around these different, often vague districts.
And you know, you can imagine where people are drawn into the community to go to the Alabama Fan Museum. Do they realize that they're missing out on the rest of the community? Even though that is not in downtown, strategic use of banners right there to indicate that down this road there's more to see could be a really good use of that. So Sean's showing a couple signs here, trailblazer signs. He's done a really good job. These signs are dictated and controlled by standards that were created by the U.S. Department of Transportation called the MUTCD. On state highways, federal funding can be jeopardized if your signage doesn't adhere to that MUTCD. So DOTs typically really frown upon signage that doesn't. He is showing you proportionally what that signage can look like and understanding natural, 3M reflective, full reflective, and all that kind of stuff. This is something that could be accomplished. These gateway markers, so often communities, they announce arrival at their corporate limits and then don't say anything else. And sometimes that space between our corporate limits and our downtown isn't the prettiest of spaces. So re-announcing arrival and kind of saying you are finally arriving at the heart of our community is extremely appropriate.
Distance difference too.
Right,
Because
absolutely.
the corporate markers are miles out.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. I was driving down and I was like, man, I'm a good bit away from Fort Payne, and I just entered the city limits. So, and then even seeing pedestrian scale wayfinding trailblazer here. Is this bike or is that info kiosk?
That's just a kiosk
Yep.
with a map and giving pedestrian walk times, different locations. You know, one of the things while walking the community yesterday and popping into some of the businesses that was coming up was that there was not a centralized resource for people, like a rack card at the hotel or something for the business owners to hand out, like if somebody's interested in dining or somebody wants to get to the park. You know, some of these assets that the community has, having a nice centralized location for that, and something like this could be a distribution point for that, but it also lets people know once they've parked that they can see this kiosk and know they can walk anywhere in the immediate downtown area in just a couple of short minutes, as opposed to feeling like they've got to move from one lot down 2 blocks to find another spot.
And this sign right here, we have plenty of examples of signs where city governments have installed a sign base, and then the private sector business community has paid for sign blades to be installed onto it. And I love it when they have, they'll have the business name and then they'll have a minute walk time instead of distance. Once you're pedestrian, you don't really care about distance anymore. So, but then that way it's not really, it doesn't appear as though a public sector investment in a private sector business. It's truly a mutual benefit there. And then, Sean did some other great designs on banners as you can go through, and you can start to see different banners, different banner designs, different ways that you can introduce that.
And this is where I started really playing around with more textures as well for some of the backgrounds, so that as you'll see getting into some of the ads and other collateral, you'll start to see some of these textures pop up just to add a little bit more to the compositions without cluttering anything. But it's always nice to be able to drop onto a website or just a simple flyer. You want to get some information instead of having a solid color block.
And again, these, you can imagine, when you look at this, I always tell the story about designing banners off of white backgrounds. He's kept them pretty simple. Overall, they read as pretty solid color blocks, which means they're going to truly pop in that space. He designed a billboard. You can imagine what something like that would look like. Really nice, clean, confident. Many times when we pay for billboards, they cost so much that we put too much info on them. It's like, we know how much it costs. Let's put everything we ever thought about saying. So, that simplicity, that confidence, I think goes a long way. And then moving into collateral, we started off by designing kind of a communication package for Main Street. So from business card, letterhead, we talked about those courtesy cards the other day that you could drop by with the businesses, so you can see. And all I did there was just left a blank line. So any board member that was doing that could simply sign their name, and you start to get that overall impact. I know y'all are talking about doing the I Am Fort Payne, so we just kind of created a background for that. I don't know how far you've gotten on it, but being able to tie that into the brand system could be really good. We heard a lot of talk about creating a map for the community. So Sean designed this brochure for a map cover. And then we went through and we designed some different merchandise that businesses in the community could have. So whether you're talking about a t-shirt, hoodies, they're pretty popular these days.
Oh, yeah.
Hats, water bottles. So you can see, like, it starts to make it easy for your businesses to profit from that connection between the consumer and the place.
We've got a lot of communities, such as like your Footworks here in town, and other places where the Main Street or the organization in charge will buy these materials and sell them at cost to the local merchants, so that they can then add a little markup to them, but you're getting your name out there. The retailers are buying in, showing some investment and getting involved, and they get some benefit, and so it's kind of a nice holistic approach for everybody to get a little out of it.
And then finally, with the advertising, being able to show how you can tell the message. Now, a lot of times, Main Streets are not big time advertisers, and they're not buying a whole lot of full page ads. But one of the best uses of these that we've ever seen is they get blown up and they get used as vacancy treatments in vacant downtown properties a lot. They get put on social media a lot. Being able to share with your friends and neighbors the marketable side of your community. So we'll go through and show you a couple examples. I think Sean put together 9 or so. This introductory image, it's just got Greek text on it right now, but we can easily go through and change that with any of the components of that brand statement. But once you have an overall shell that holds that design, you have the ability to change out dominant photos. Now you notice, this does not have 7,000 photos on it. It has a single photo to focus on.
And some very beautiful greens.
Yeah,
It's a shame that Sean's such a terrible photographer.
I know, for real. So what Sean did as he started to build this series was, after you introduced the idea of Alabama's mountain town, he started to adopt variations. Alabama's historic town with the cabin site. Alabama's outdoor town. Alabama's shopping town. Alabama's eclectic town. Alabama's music town. Alabama's colorful town. I know you do. Alabama's faithful town. Alabama's flavorful town. So you can see with a system like this, it's pretty expandable. It's easy to use those components, and we think we've got a lot of different things that have kind of shaved away all the different concerns that people had, while trying to preserve the meat of the messages that folks wanted to get out. So with with that, that's what Sean and I have been able to put together since yesterday. So obviously we didn't hit everything.
It's beautiful work, and I don't know that everybody in this room realized how much that would cost if I came to you to buy it.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about some
You're welcome.
expensive
Yeah,
piece of
it's
work.
right.
Yeah, so it's beautifully done.
Thank you.
Beautifully done.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, this really is your turn. I mean, obviously, the reason that we wanted to present this to you all is we wanted you all to see what our thoughts and strategy were. We'd like to know if you feel like we're walking down the right road, if the decisions that we've made seem to make sense, and then obviously we've recorded this, and we're going to share with you all both the recording and a PDF of the presentation. From here, we want you all as a group to make any refinements, especially with a keen focus on additions. Hey, you did this, this, and this, and we love it, but what about this? The more the merrier. The more resources you have, the better chance of rolling it out and reaching that adoption. And that's really what we want to shoot for. So with that, I'd love to open it up for y'all.
I just have 2 comments about your initial commentary.
Okay.
Gorge is not a term.
Okay.
Geologically, it's a canyon, and it's referred to as a canyon. And in the southeast, typically you don't hear a lot. It's gorge used.
Yeah, I kept picking up that designation online as the deepest gorge.
Well, it's
East of the Mississippi.
the National Park Service, though.
Okay.
It's a canyon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not saying change it. I'm just saying that it's referred to as a canyon.
Gotcha.
The second piece is the Willisey.
Yeah.
It's commonly referred to as Willstown.
Willstown.
By our historical organization
Yeah.
here in town, and probably would be better understood.
Okay,
And
perfect.
Willesey.
Yeah, I picked up on both of them,
Okay.
and I knew that the Willesey was
I've
the
never heard
original,
that, though. That's
and
awesome.
then,
I think that's gonna be cute.
well, here's how my interpretation of what I was reading was, Willesey is what it was amongst the Cherokee early on, and as more settlers came into the area, it became known as Willstown, and Willstown was pretty much adopted across the board. I chose to go with that one because it was the one that I hadn't heard, knowing that we could easily
Well,
change it.
And I'm not
Yeah.
saying change it.
No,
I'm just, doing a surface comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pretty piss
Absolutely.
poor for 2 days.
I know.
Just get it.
Well, we're no through hiker. No. Any other thoughts, comments?
Beautifully done.
It is.
Enjoy it.
Could you give them kind of an idea on the collateral, what they'll end up getting in their final?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, of course, all the photos become yours. We've taken high-resolution images throughout the community. All the files that we create, every single logo that we create, we'll go through and we'll create one color and black and white versions of all the event logos, and then we'll save every single one of those in 5 different file formats. So even if you don't know anything about computers, the resources that professional vendors will need will all be available. All that stuff will become yours. We will share with you the typefaces so that you have licenses to those typefaces and can use those for continued expansion. We'll also give you a style guide document. The style guide, it'll be a digital document, everything will live online, and it will tell you exactly how the colors are mixed, define all the colors. It will define all the typefaces. It will tell you how to use the system, how not to use the system. It's a pretty succinct document. Typically, the main meat of it is about 12 pages or so, and then it has a add-on that is a thumbnail gallery of all the logos that we create. So once it's all said and done, you might have 80 or 90 different variations between all the different color variations, and then in one place you can go and quickly reference that stuff. And all of that stuff will be accessed through a single web link.
Okay, great.
So we'll literally pass all the resources over to you. And then from there, you know, most of the components you can just start grabbing and running with them.
I had lunch with Connie and Tim and suggested to them, generally, we come back in and do a public presentation.
Right.
So this is really for you to look at it and go, maybe, well, we want this or that piece or whatever, and get back to just fairly quickly. And then come back in and do a public presentation. In this particular case, I think it's an excellent opportunity for you guys to use this as a positive reinforcement of what Main Street's doing with the community. Main Street, Alabama is 100% in your corner. We're not going anywhere. We're hanging with you guys. And also a nice way to introduce Tim into the community as well. So I wouldn't like you to wait real long on this relaunch, but it'll be Ben and I back. They don't let Sean out very often. But it's a shame because he's pretty
We
darn
understand.
Well, we've got to immediately address our website and applying the new branding.
Yes.
And the narrative's horrible. The messaging, we've got to apply the messaging.
Well, and here's what I would love to say, and I'm not sure how the other communities have done it yet, but I love the idea of using it as an opportunity to really kind of publicly acknowledge Tim. What I would love to do, if possible, and I don't think that this is overly expeditious, I'd love to go through the process of refinement, finalizing the resources, and then I would love to go through the process of maybe going through and ordering, at the very least, a quick little order of new cards with the new identities on it, and then see if we can get that logo into social media and into the website.
I'd love to get some materials to sell.
Oh my.
Yeah, yeah. So if you can go through, when you launch it, I think that for you all, it is important for there to be immediate signs of implementation. I don't think it has to be huge. I'm not saying you need to go out and do anything big and super expensive, but having some sort of element that shows, oh, this isn't just a plan, this is what we're doing. I think that'll go a long
When
way.
is Alabama Week, Ben?
15th through 18th.
Of June?
Yeah.
We need those Feel So Right signs all
Oh
over.
my goodness.
Well, we've already got things that they've approved, but kind of what, I was thinking anyway, and I'd already talked to a couple of the councilmen, we're doing the North and South Y in banners, and I think those would be perfect coming in,
Cool.
and then
Do we need to clear this with rain?
we do well, I'll have to get it approved through their manager. That's why I was kind of hoping maybe I could get that. So we can go ahead and implement, get it approved and implement it.
We used Feel So Right in a former ad campaign and logo.
And they
We're not using it anymore, no, but we did. So
I mean, I really think Feel So Right, Song of the South, and Down Home, I think are three of the ones that I'm not sure how much issue they would really have with simply using phraseology in this way.
Well, I
we
think
didn't mind it on Feel So Right for tourism.
Yeah.
Well, and I think this is a great time to use it because they wanted banners down that way,
Okay.
and I couldn't promise them.
Right.
But I think if we now go in and say, hey, look what we've done, if you'll approve those, I'll get them on the north and south side. The gateway's coming in.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, before I wrap up, I'll make sure that Mary has access to the PDF, and that way we can start getting it where it needs to go.
It's beautiful stuff.
Oh, it's-
Love it.
Love it, love it, love
Great
it.
job.
All right.
Listen, these outdoor people that come up here and kayak, when they see that right there,
Yeah,
they're gonna want it on a hat,
Mhm.
it's a sweatshirt, but they love to say, hey, I've been here before.
Right.
You know, when they're out west,
Yep.
and they wanna wear Fort Payne sometimes with them, say, I've been to Fort Payne,
Mhm.
and then they're gonna go, where's that?
Right. Right.
I wear our Southwest Virginia shirt when I'm traveling a lot, just as a t-shirt, and I get a lot of people stopping
Oh, yeah.
and ask me where I was and what I did while I was there.
Yep, it's just,
But I'm not so much big now, as we can say, I'm from Payne, Alabama, Alabama's mountain town. Yeah, I know that you do, but,
we're getting it, we're already gone to Daddy and then.
Awesome.
that's good.
What are you gonna use? All right. No, I really think, I think that the combination of the Alabama's town from kind of a tagline acquisition standpoint, but then also where I really do like, it's almost from kind of a lifestyle standpoint, that mountain harmony concept. I think that's one of those things where, had we only done Alabama's mountain town, I was concerned that it would appear like we were putting all our all our eggs in outdoor rec and ignoring everything else. And that's not the intention at all. I mean, that really great combination of history, arts, and outdoors. I mean, that is what people are doing to drive tourism.
Well, and I think the Mountain Harmony gives us something to be proud
Mhm.
of. Proud
Oh,
of.
absolutely.
I mean, when you think about it.
Absolutely.
Well, it sounds unified.
Yeah,
it
yeah.
does.
I mean, I think local
Harmonious.
residents would wear shirts that said Mountain Harmony
I'm sure
and
it's
then had a
harmonious.
logo,
Well,
you know,
there's a
Fort
way
Payne.
when you actually do the public launch of this, to have some Alabama music playing in the background and have collateral, people will want this.
Mhm,
I like how you blended the two goals in the Fort Payne,
mhm.
split down the middle.
Yeah.
I bet if we could
Just
get
a-
t-shirts
just
made
subtle.
Little texture,
Just a
absolutely,
little.
absolutely.
that Alabama would wear them during their concert.
Oh, hey,
That would be awesome.
well, that would be great.
Yeah, I could see the way you mentioned the texture on splitting that. It's almost a little depth to it. So whenever you do signage and,
Yeah,
they do the
gives you
3D
opportunity.
renderings, having, as somebody comes in, having a little bit of that relief to it. So it adds a little bit more depth to your gateway signs.
Well, and the other thing that it does visually, and I don't know if you pick up on it or not, but one of the biggest issues that you have when you communicate Fort Payne on a single line is 4 letters versus 5 letters.
Right.
So when we did that, we knew that we could figure it out and compose it so that the left-hand side of the P ran down the center line. But by also dividing the background with a very subtle difference, it ended up creating an optical illusion of balance.
Right.
And that was something that was really,
That should be our tagline.
Balance.
yeah. Fort Payne,
Alabama's
Illusion-
balance.
illusionary balance.
You know, you're still being recorded, so be careful.
We can cut that last part out.
Edit Darlene Ross.
Yeah, that white space becomes the actual 5th letter for the
Right.
left-hand side.
Yeah.
I'm just blown away.
I love it.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you can see through what we created. We really fell in love with Fort Payne while we were here. And we love what you guys are doing. We love the assets that the community has. I mean, you are such a giving place. And many times when you go into a community that so freely gives to others, you normally are really bad at patting yourself on the back. You know, you do not toot your own horn. And that's just kind of a humble nature. I mean, thank goodness you got Matt now, and he's good at tooting horns. So
He's a tutor, all right.
he's a tutor.
I think it's called a ring ringtail tutor.
That's an old grandpa.
Alabama's ringtail tutor.
Is that a bird?
Oh, yeah.
It's a whatever you wanna make it. It's a mat. It's a mat bird.
All right, y'all. Thank you.
Very good, that's great.
Thank you, Mary.
Okay, good to see you.
3 years ago, a decision to bring you guys on, knowing that you had more potential than you ever knew. And we're not sad.
We're
The
glad.
potential, you're finally realizing this shows your potential and just how quality you guys are and where you can go. So, very proud of y'all. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great job.
Been great
Great job,
meeting
great job. Good to see you, John.
Glad you like it.